and location-centric commerce, all those dots are starting to get connected. And
so Robert, in your opinion, does this kill travel agents once and for all?
No. But there's something, a second news item to segue into that.
This one doesn't, but wait, there's more.
But wait, there's more.
But look at what Booking.com is doing. Booking.com now has chatbots, right?
Yeah.
Which some of it will be highly automated, right? If they just, standardize questions, they know the answer, that sort of thing, they'll test it out and you'll get a response. It won't actually be a human. But you start getting more complex things, you're going to get a human. Look at what Paul English, who's the former CTO, CIO of Expedia, founder of Kayak, or co-founder of Kayak, is now doing Lola Travel. Lola Travel has real human travel agents, but again, using a lot of automated tools to really help people have amazing experiences, right? To be it upgraded, really spectacular things that you really need a level of expertise. So I don't think the great travel agents don't disappear. So I look at Stacy Small, Elite Travel Gal on Twitter, things like that, Elite Travel International. She does a lot of high-end travel for a lot of Hollywood folks, a lot of Silicon Valley folks, and has spread her little travel agency group. She books a lot of stuff now for people she's never met. Right? She lives in Brentwood, California. It used to be if you were a traveler, that's what you did. You had the little local shop and you worked in your little radius, and now you met the people face to face. She's global now. She's booking, $40,000 trips for people she's never seen. But if they're going to the Four Seasons in Prague, she can get them an upgrade to a suite because she's got those connections. So things like that. Wendy Perrin has wendyperrin.com. She's not a travel agent, but she has her WOW list, which are her destination experts, which these people know Costa Rica or Milan or wherever you may be going, who can really give you exceptional experiences for what would be great for what you would like to do, right? And so those guys survive. All the other guys who just are taking orders, order takers, making, just doing stuff that you could do yourself, they disappear.
Well, and you, Robert, had a great line on this show 3, 4, 5 weeks ago. You said something that was really terrific.
Remind me
about I've been using it all the time, about experience as a service.
Oh yeah.
And I think you're exactly right. And I think it becomes a question of what again will differentiate people who do it well. And this is true whether you're a travel agent, this is true whether you're a concierge at a hotel, whether you're the hotel marketers, et cetera, is can you provide experience as a service at any point in the journey? Whether it's dreaming, whether it's booking, whether it's pre-arrival, whether it's on property, whether it's post-stay. Are you doing a good job of exactly what you just described, Robert, of extending the experience and giving that great experience as a service through every stage of the journey? Those folks are going to do great. If it's, would you like fries with that? Thank you, drive through. You're in deep, deep, deep trouble.
Right. Yeah. And that's really the key, because and it isn't a one size fits all. It's the personalization and tailoring that. So you go, oh, you're going to London or you're going to Paris, you only have a few days. The classic example for me, I wound up doing it on actually the Cruise Critic message boards. A couple of years ago, we had a cruise around the British Isles, but we were flying in on miles into Gatwick. And then you go, oh, well, we wanted to stay a couple days in London, and then we had to get out on the ship out of Southampton. You go, well, how do you? Well, some guy on the Cruise Critic board goes, oh, no. Here's what you do. You need to get the train ticket. You can use the Gatwick Express. That's going to take you into, and I've taken that before. It's like, oh, yeah, that's great. But he goes, but you can buy a special ticket, which is not available online. You can only buy it at the airport. It's only for off-peak travel, and you save 60% per kid and 40% per adult. And that same ticket works on the Southeast line that goes down to Southampton. So this guy saved me.
Were you required to board on platform 9 3/4?
3/4, yeah, exactly. No, but it was unbelievable. The guy said, the guy probably saved me $300 just by, and it's like, oh my God. And we got down and back, and it was fantastic. And, so things like that. So you go, wow, you can save people money. Or what do you do? And it's like, well, we're going to be in London for the day. Let's go to the London Eye. Let's go see the Tower of London. Let's eat at the Hard Rock Cafe, and let's go see a show in the West End. And it's like, no, you don't want to do all that stuff. You can do 2 or 3 or this, or you're going to kill yourself. And sometimes you just need help figuring those things out.
Well, I just posted a link to another post that really talks about what you just talked about, called Personalization Starts with a Person, right? You have to understand the needs of the customer. You have to understand the needs of the guest. And it's amazing when you have those experiences. And it's something that you can do regardless of the type of property you are. Mm-hmm. This isn't something, right? I mean, I've seen examples of economy scale folks doing this. And obviously, clearly, we all think of 5-star. But I mean, I know great properties where, the front desk, the people who work there just love taking care of the guest and, listen to what the guest needs and can point them to, I know where you can get a great cheeseburger, or I know where you can get a great meal quickly, or I know how and I'll stay at those places all the time when they're the right property for that kind of stay that, that just work because they're looking out for the guest and personalizing to the needs of that person.
And that's traditional hospitality. And that's the key. That is the key. Yeah. When I left Four Seasons and went to Journey's End, top of the market to the, to really, $40 a night Canadian type thing. Some of those GMs and front desk clerks were better than the Four Seasons people at advising, here's what you could do. Because again, you got a concierge who might be connected, you might be getting paid by, here's this VIG to send them to this Italian restaurant instead of that one. And that's a problem. And actually that ties in when you start looking at things like Expedia's accelerator program or all this kind of paying for slotting. You start going, wait a second, what's one of the questions? Focusrite has their conference next week in Dublin. I'm not going, but because I'm an analyst for them, I submit a bunch of questions. So one of the things are like questions for Steve Koffer, right? So one of those is, okay, what's TripAdvisor going to do? They just got hammered in their earnings report. Their shares were down 3 or 4% because instant booking is working, but it's less profitable. Well, what are they going to start doing things that are, Adele Gutman Milton is, big on this. Are they going to start doing things to monetize better at kind of the detriment of the true, real, here's what the ratings are. This is the best property for you in this situation. Or is this the best property for us where we make more money? So that's going to be a very interesting thing. I don't know if they're going to get that question asked or if he'll answer, but how he'll answer. But that's going to be a very, very big issue. And really the ones who can tie in the true personalization and say, this is what's best for you, and then monetize it later because of that trust factor and reliability and really doing that. Those are the ones who I think wind up surviving.
Well, I mean, Virtuoso presented at this last conference out in Las Vegas, and they're all about that creating that experience relationship and being that one-stop shop that's going to guide that process through for you and so forth. And they gave some interesting stats as to the leisure market that over 40%, including millennials, over 40% of all people, again income-based, of over $150,000 in income, use travel agents now as a part of their process.
Oh, sure.
Because they just either they don't want to be buggered with it, or they really want to have that entitled experience, as she called it. It's that, hey, I'm in a position in my life where I have income, and my status is it allows me to be able to do these adventures that can't be found by the average consumer, and I want somebody to be able to tell me what those are.
And time is money, right? I mean, their time. Everybody's time is worth a lot of money. And that's if you have the ability to hand it off to a travel agent, and particularly when you're not paying a fee to the travel agent, it's just built in. That's fantastic.
Right. Well, and I compare it a lot to, working on your home. You've got do-it-yourselfers. Right. Yeah. Could I tile the bathroom? Maybe. I could take a shot at it. I'd probably go through a lot of tile, rip out a lot of stuff, and eventually over a period of weeks or months, have it look good. Right. Or I can get a pro who can kind of come in and do it. And maybe I got to pay, even in that situation, maybe I have to pay for it. And some of these agents, you have to pay, them a bunch of money, and it's a fee. And that's fine. But in exchange for that, you get expertise and peace of mind. It's like buying insurance. It happens, and it's gonna, and it's gonna be great.
Yeah.
And that's
it goes
high
back.
value.
Robert, 2 minutes left. I just want to throw up one thing that I thought you would be jumping on news-wise, and then Tim and I are going to. I've been trying to auction off your chair since we knew you were going to be leaving. So far, Carla hasn't decided to get the price quoter yet, but we're working on it. No, I
get 50% of any. That's
now we're okay. Interstate got sucked up.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think this is going to make a ripple? You think this is just a part of the process of how the world's working these days?
I think it's fascinating that Thayer divested on that. So the number must have been pretty good. But I'm wondering how many of these guys are looking at, this is the peak. Let's get out, let's kind of divest. And, from here on in, things are going to, year over year growth is maybe going to start getting hard. So let's sell at the top. I don't know.
Okay.
This would be a signal. The Thayer guys know hospitality.
That's for sure.
Deeply sort of things. So either things weren't working out too well with Jing Zhang, or I don't know. Maybe there was some internal stuff. I hadn't really heard about anything going exceptionally weird with it or anything with the relationship. But I think they wound up with a good number, and they thought selling now is better than what we can make over the next, whatever time horizon they were looking at. So
I'll only add one comment to this that I think is predominant. We brought this up on occasion for other reasons as well. I think, unfortunately, our industry is being sold to those that do not appreciate what the core of the industry's value is. Not that it's not the asset of the building, not that it's not the quality of the value of what we do, as it is the purpose of what we do. I think not when hospitality people sell hospitality industries to non-hospitality business owners, it chips a little bit away at the core of our success, because the shift in the C-level room, the boardrooms, is not about what we're giving in the sense of value to those who are using it. Instead, it's what can we give that gives us the value to our shareholders.
Well, and Kohlberg certainly has been around the industry a lot. They've with KK previously KKR and things like that. They've had a lot of investments, so they definitely know the space. But I don't know. There was an interpretation that there may be a swing back, that basically all of these hotel groups have now gone asset light and management light. And they think the pendulum, and they've gone almost as far as they can. And there may be a pendulum swinging back to try to get more control over these properties. We'll have to see, but that is going to be, certainly an issue of how you get these things in, especially with soft brands where you can start flipping these things fairly easily. How do you lock these guys in? And the key to locking them in is management. So we'll have to see. But on that note, I have to jump to my other call. But
that's fine.
I will watch the recap, and and it does say recording now up here.
Yeah,
you must have figured out how to do that. So
no, I opened it up on my other computer, which allowed me to be the administrator, and so I got this multiple personality thing going on right now, which is why I keep looking all over the place, because I can control it over here, watch it over here. You just got to make the ends around kind of thing. So, but yes,
you can get some meds for that, though. It's okay for the older person.
What do you think I'm on, Robert? What do you think?
That's right. Okay.
And Robert, happy Mother's Day in your household. So,
for you as well. We have the older daughters coming in this weekend, so
nice.
Very nice.
Enjoy.
Although we can't really do anything in the house because it's totally staged to be sold. So everything has to be perfectly in its place, and don't touch anything.
Well,
good reason to go out to
brunch. Knows that you're going to be so preoccupied that as Tim and I talk about you, you really won't catch up until you play the recording, which means we're going to probably post everything we want.
Exactly. So go. Just say what you will about me when I go. Bye.
Robert, thanks for making it.
See you later. Right.
Run like a cheetah.
Like a rock cheetah. Mr. Tim, and you and me and Carla. Carla's in Ecuador. I would love to find out what's going on in Ecuador, but what would you like to chat about, Mr. Tim?
Well, I just want to add one thing to what Robert just said. I don't have a particular perspective on the Kohlberg acquisition of Interstate, other than to say, one, I think Robert's probably right that the pendulum is starting to swing back a little bit. And second, that I think right now we're in the good old days, right? We're going to look back at 2016, 2015, 2 or 3 years from now and go, man, remember when everything was great? We were all fat and happy and, business was spectacular and
everything was up.
Everything was up, right? Revenue was up, et cetera. I think we're kind of at peak right now. And I think some of these folks are saying, you have some folks who are saying, I want to get in because it looks like everybody's fat and happy. And you got some folks who are saying, great, we'll let you because we think this is about as high as it's going to go for a time. There's this thing I've run into a lot, and I've fallen trapped to it. I know other people have from time to time over the course of their careers that, we look at digital and we think it should make everything easier. And the reality is it makes it easier for everybody. So that means there's more competition, which means you have to work harder and do a better job. So, I think that we're going to see increased competition over the next couple of years, increased, fighting for share amongst OTAs and amongst management companies and amongst brands. So, we're probably not done seeing acquisitions, but certainly this one is probably that, the Thayer folks can tell when things are going really well and
there are people like that. There are people I work for properties that back in 07, they decided to sell what I thought was ludicrously their high-end profile portfolio hotels.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you knucking futz? We're at the highlight where this is rocking. You guys are getting rid of your battleship hotels, da-da-da. And it was called the $1 billion deal because at the end of it, boy, were they so right. They sold it at the apex. The world, as you know, changed so quickly afterwards. The people that were holding it, they negotiated the management contracts, so they were locked in. And they're sitting there just with a ton of money, still in control of the same hotels, not worried about the degradation of the assets value. And the people that got caught holding the bag are sitting there going, wow, we thought we got a good deal, and boy, were we badly timed.
And they sold TIG at what looks like the right time.
Yeah.
They're
smart like that. Fred's still around, isn't he?
Fred Senior? Yeah,
he's still around. So he knows what he's doing because God knows.
Oh yeah,
Bill Marriott trusted him with a lot more than most people.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And absolutely.
I'll bring up something from the conference only because also talk about Unashamed. I went to the Digital Travel Summit or the Digital Travel Summit because of one of my clients, Derbysoft. But it's kind of funny. It's like a secret society conference. Metasearch. I just want to throw this in as to what you're talking about, where the market's going to go. Those who are using Metasearch managers like Derbysoft and people that, actually Derbysoft, there's only 2 or 3 actually. Derbysoft's one of the 2. Yeah. It's like a secret that nobody wants to share. It's like the prize-winning recipe at the fair. You win every year, and people want to know what your secret is, and you just don't want to share it. What they're doing with Metasearch, most of the hotels are sitting back going, I don't know how to get in those HPAs. I don't know how to get into TripAdvisor, TripAdvisor's Instabook. They have no methodology. They don't know about API setups and switches and all this other stuff. They're struggling to find somebody that can actually just handle their social posts, let alone API crap. And it's a shame because what's happened, and everybody knows this on the mobile side of things, which is now represents 64% of all internet traffic related to travel, is that Google said, hey, we're wiping out the right rail, which we know about, which means everything's vertical in a straight line. There's 6 positions for paid placement. But before we even get to any of that shit, Google says we don't trust our SERP pages anymore. We're just going to tell you what we think is the single answer to your single question. We've had that conversation on the show before. And HPAs are a part of that program. And it looks, and people hoteliers are just looking resigned saying, you know what, that's for the big boys. That's for Expedia, Priceline, whatever. And it's like, no, you can be there too. It's just you got to get connected to somebody that can put you in there. And because it's such a dynamic thing, you got to have somebody that knows how to do active, dynamic, live time bidding. Because you can't sit behind a screen all day. It's like doing It's like doing the stock market, doing day bidding on the stock market.
Day trading.
Yep. Yeah. You can't just, you got to have one person do that kind of thing. And I know in depth about this. So I would love going on the topic that you had about we're at the apex of where business is good. And nobody's really fighting over those things because, hey, they got enough business anyway. But when it starts getting lean and hungry, all of a sudden people want to look and say, why can't I be there? And the big boys are sitting back going, because, we're keeping this a secret. What do you think?
I completely agree. what we need to be smart about right now, I am always a proponent of two things, which is, first, you have to grow the top line. And second, you have to be really conscious of costs as you do it. Because every time you're growing the top line, you need to say, okay, can I shave another couple points off what I'm doing on the bottom line as well? Because when you think about things like this, you want to get good at marketing now. You want to get good at marketing when you can afford to, so that when things are actually getting tough, you already know how to do the things you need to do. You've already been very focused on bottom line at the same time, so that you can say, how do I yield a little better? So let's take a for instance. Today, if you're paying 25%, 22% to Expedia, right? Let's call it 25% because it makes the math easy. It means for every dollar you're giving Expedia, you're getting $4 back. Now, if you can manage your Metasearch, if you can manage hotel price ads, if you can manage search, if you can manage, any of those other tools to where you're getting $4.50 back, or you're getting $4.75 back, or you're getting $5 back for every dollar, that's a win. That is a pure bottom line win to you, plain and simple. And you will have better skills to do that effectively when times get tough, so that you don't then have to turn to the Expedias of the world or the Booking.coms of the world and say, wait, we're really empty. Let us give you 28% to fill the room, because you're already filling the rooms, right? This is something that is well within the capabilities of any hotel. You're absolutely right. You need to have connectivity. There's only a handful of places you can get it. DerbySoft is certainly one of the good ones. A lot of the firms, Sabre, Hebs.
David Chester's on Facebook Live with us right now. So you got SiteMinders.
Chesler. Yeah. SiteMinder's a great one. Absolutely. Yeah. So folks like that can get you connected.
Cody's another one.
Cody's another one. Actually, Cody's got an interesting thing. They just posted something a couple weeks ago.
Cody's doing good. Cody's putting out content. Because no holds a bash for this. DerbySoft's a client of mine, and I'm working with them. We're going to put together a pretty cool Metasearch calculator, just so you know. That's going to be calculating based on your type of property and your size of property, and it will calculate gross revenues and what Metasearch can be as a contribution, bottom and top line. So
absolutely. Cody's done a great thing. I just posted a link to, actually, I'm going to talk about the link I posted to Cody in 1 second. I'm actually going to post something else from my site first, just because it's more relevant to the.
Let's put Cody stuff on the other. And again,
it's relevant to the topic at hand. There's actually a spreadsheet that I make available. It's linked right there. That actually helps you look at your channel analysis and what is your profitability analysis for a given channel. Can you value channels specifically? It's on a post called "Is Social a Waste of Time for Hotel Marketers?" But the tool basically looks at, what's your ADR, what's your length of stay, what are your costs in terms of margin or things along those lines, what's your conversion rate, what's your cost per click if it's a cost per click channel, what's its cost per acquisition if it's an acquisition channel, etc. So that you can actually look at these things and say, is this actually something that's yielding a return for me? Right. And is it yielding a return that's better than you're going to get by paying an OTA 20 to 22 to 25%? Because if it's not, then you should use the OTA.
Right.
I mean, plain and simple. I'm not like,
but it's a frenemy relationship. It's like, if you can't afford to be in the space that they're in, they ride their coattails. It's an old market strategy.
Absolutely.
Back in the day.
Absolutely.
It just when you used to do the CVB stuff and you couldn't do those glossy magazines that get shipped out to all over the world.
That's right.
So what you did was you paid to be in the glossy magazine that got shipped all over the world, and you realized you just had to ride the coattail of somebody that was putting more money up, and
that's right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. People who look at OTAs and say, we need to burn this down.
They're taking money out of our pocket.
Using the tool the right way. Yeah. Right. No,
they represent a market share that we can't get. So in order to get what they can provide as service from us, we join what it takes to be in their space. I've always argued about TripAdvisor. I think TripAdvisor, I despise them and love them in the same methodology.
That's right.
They put themselves in a position that there was an interesting stat that has been around, but I get reemphasized again at this conference, that that if there are no reviews, half the people that will book won't book because there's no reviews for a particular place.
That's right.
You know, and then there's 78% of people that will check reviews before going to a place they've already booked. So it's a reaffirmation program. So it was smart of them to make themselves literally, let's face it, they're an OTA. Because they're providing a channel. They're standing in line now with their hand out. But okay, yes, woe is us. We have to share the world with them. Let's take advantage of what they can offer us and pay to be in their space so that if they're on the platform, then they can go over and join in. Who's joining us?
Now, I do want to say, I agree with everything you said. I also want to say that if you cannot market yourself directly and on a bunch of channels, if you cannot get better than 4 to 1, 4.5 to 1, 5 to 1.
Purple's the color today.
I actually am late because I kicked on incognito to look what you guys are wearing and quickly ran to see if I could match one of you. Unfortunately, I have nothing pink, so
I'm trying. You know what? I'm proud. I can work. I can do the pink. I can be the man in the pink. Besides, my face usually matches it anyway. I'm good.
Oh, God.
Good to see you. Tim, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's all right. No, all I was saying was if you can, there's absolutely nothing wrong with an OTA. There's absolutely nothing wrong with TripAdvisor or those folks. If they're bringing you business, you can't get at a better rate on your own. I also would say if you can't do better than 4 to 1 or 4.5 to 1 on your own, you're doing something wrong. Plain and simple. That's as cut and dried as it gets.
Sure.
And if that's true, you should call Hospitality Digital Marketing or Tim Peter and Associates or Rock Cheetah or talk to your good friends.
I heard this is really nifty software program that does internal direct market recapturing. That I don't know, flip something. I don't know what it's called.
It's actually funny that you bring up the 4 to 1. We actually, when we go to look at potential hotels, whether they've called us or we're going to call on them, we actually try to target hotels that will perform over 10 times with us.
Yeah.
And anyone who will fall under that, we actually actively try to discourage them from coming on, and we explain why. And every now and then, someone just kind of says, I don't care, I want to come through. Right. Normally, we're right. We recently actually had a hotel in Honduras, an 11-room property that completely proved us wrong. Yeah. And it's just, none of their numbers added up, but the one thing we didn't take into consideration is, even if you look at this hotel on TripAdvisor, it's 100% positive, and it's the most magical experiences, right. And it's because they're basically in heaven. But other than that, we actually look at it as a 10 times. We don't want to bring in a customer unless we can perform above 10 times, and the mean of our customer base is over 60 times.
It was an interesting point that was made. Again, I'm just referring because I came fresh off this conference in Vegas. But one point was made out of this process that we're talking about, whether it be Metasearch or OTA channel usages or what, because the vendors that showed up, there was 20 vendors. It was a small thing. About 150 people were there, are all data. By the way, gentlemen, I have a lot of vendor information that I'm more than willing to share with both of you, not only the presentations and stuff, but there's some vendors that are kind of pushing, are in the same spaces that we all talk about that I'll be happy to share with. So
that'd be great. That'd be great. That'd be awesome.
But the funny part of it was that they were talking, this one presentation is if you went up to these slot machines right now, for every dollar you put in, a $10 bill would come out. How many dollars would you try to stuff in that machine?
Right.
And,
all of them.
If you like me.
All of them.
And even the ones coming out, I'd be cycling those back in.
Right,
totally.
And that's what we're talking. Sorry, go ahead.
We tell people this all the time. If you do digital correctly, your budget for digital should be unlimited.
Right. But here's the thing. As someone who's always been a vendor to hotels my entire career, I can tell you no matter how much value you drive, there is a limit to how much every hotel is willing to pay for something. We had it at Easy Yield when we basically took away the paper processing of reservations and processed them automatically into the property management system. So we dropped your cost and allowed to get rid of all errors and made your inventory correct and all of that. And even with that, there was a limit to what someone was willing to pay. and that number was less than what they were paying before.
Yeah.
For flip.to, we experimented with success-based pricing, and we found that no matter what, like even though we can continue to show ROI, and we use defendable ROI, we don't go for things like engagement and stuff like that. We actually hard value, and then we actually sandbag what the hard value is. So
cut it in half.
Yeah, I mean, so we partner with a company called Navis, and they actually did a study on the value of a opt-in email, and they said that lifetime value is about $100. So that's just an opt-in email.
Makes sense.
What we give customers are people who are opting in for an offer for a future stay that knows someone who stayed with you. That's a warm lead with intent.
Right.
So we actually have Navis working on analyzing what the value of that is. We know it's over $100, but do you know what we use in our ROI calculations? $25.
Right.
Because not every hotel has a CRM, not every hotel has this. So this idea of growing their database may not necessarily be a immediate impact. But when we look at it, ROI should be brought to everything, and then you should look at your total cost of that reservation and compare it. And you should also include effort. How much time did you spend?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I forgot to mention this also, guys. We're actually famous.
What?
I just want to let you know we're famous. I had 3 people come up to me and knew me. Lauren, good to see you. Hi, Mr. I don't know who you are. Yeah, I watched the Blab. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Actually, I didn't say. I said something where you'd be shitting me. Yeah. It's like I had 3 people at the conference. Okay, they came up to me and watch us. And I'm like, why don't you join in? Why don't you jump a chair? Whatever. Like, no. You guys keep going. And sometimes I feel like you guys are talking faster than I can keep up. I'm like, well, that's probably me. But I mean, we actually were fair. People watch us on the Blab.
That's fantastic.
It is.
That's fantastic and scary at the same time.
It is scary at the same time. I mean, if this is a small conference, there wasn't a whole mess of people that were there, but for 3 people to come up and say that. One weird thing on this, I just want to point this up because I was so impressed by this. There was a lot of Hotel Tonight presented, Priceline presented, and I was very fascinated by the statistics of same-day booking. And not to get into this, I don't want to save it for another content time that we have it, but the really cool thing that Priceline did in their app, they did this as a learned lesson. There's a toggle function when you're doing same-day booking that is, I'm booking after midnight. Now, it doesn't sound like a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
But when you're doing I'm going to stay, whatever, blah, 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 and you go to book, all the PMS systems shift forward at midnight.
Mm-hmm.
The same day is that next night, not the night you're sitting in the middle at 1 o'clock in the morning on. And I thought it was brilliant that they added this simple toggle function that was like, okay, no, I really want to look at tonight. It's tonight, even though it's the next day and the rest of the world's mine. And I thought that was brilliant.
Well, would it actually be then hotel last night?
Yeah, well, good point to be made. But if you're drinking, it's kind of a hotel wherever.
I actually had this experience. This is 8 years ago, something like that. I was in New York. I worked in New York City at the time. I was in my office, and we were working on a project, burning the midnight oil, quite literally, and decided I wasn't going to go home. I was going to stay in the city. I had to be back early the next day, and could not book a room online. Couldn't find availability online. I actually spent a ton of time calling around from hotel to hotel on the phone, trying to find a place that I could stay that night because there was simply no way to do it online at the time. It's a great point.
Yeah.
The Priceline also, when they were showing their stats as well as Hotel Tonight, we probably all have clients that have roadside hotels, and their first complaint is, I'm not a destination. I have no value proposition for people to be here, so forth. And usually the only arguments we have is that calculate your drive market distance to where you're a reasonable intercept, and market those and maybe geo market those as when they're in the area that they know. And with this whole bot stuff, it's great because we can actually help with the pushing now of notifications that they're nearby. But Hotel Tonight and Priceline, they showed Priceline did a graph of where geographically everybody was searching from. They gave a scary statistic. It was in the 40 percentile. People admitted while driving looking for a hotel on their platform,
right?
Which in itself is scary. But then again, we drive by those people every day that are on their phones while they're driving. But when you look at the targeting, it's all along major interstates. And it's like, that's a useful tool, because that means if you're going to tell somebody that's sitting in the middle of nowhere or a roadside type brand, it's like, well, let's ribbon this out a little bit. Let's start talking to them progressively as they go through. And they made an interesting point too, and that was they use retargeting not just as a flatline tool, but they have calculated when in the decision process of travel is the best opportunity for retargeting's conversion success. They actually put a progression of retargeting based on the progression of proximity, which I thought was another valuable takeaway. Of like, wow, so you begin to retarget on Facebooks or whatever at certain distances from inventory that you have available. And I thought, that's a neat takeaway. But anyway, so I thought that was pretty smart too.
So real quick, Lauren, I was curious because I almost chased you to that conference, but I couldn't get enough feedback on it. So did you think it was a worthwhile conference to do again?
No.
Yeah. Glad I didn't chase you because it's expensive.
It's damn expensive. Fortunately, Derbysoft paid for my attendance because it was something that they wanted to be at and they didn't have the opportunity and they sent me instead.
Nice.
But
I had some cause for pause because I knew a handful of the hoteliers speaking. So and they had spoken for 2 years in a row. So I just emailed them, hey, under crunch time, trying to decide if I'm going to drop this ridiculous amount of money. Is it worth it? And they just came back saying, listen, from the perspective of getting FaceTime with hoteliers, no, because if any of them are like I am, I come in, I speak, and I leave.
Yeah. I mean, there was some great, the MGM presentation, because they're this massive thing now. I didn't even realize the inventory they had.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I knew they had inventory, but I didn't realize they had that inventory. That presentation was phenomenal. The Priceline presentation was phenomenal. Expedia's presentation was phenomenal. I mean, they had some great presentations, but little quippy things like the size of the audience was good, but to your point, it's that the real big speakers or the speakers that you're happy to see in person, they disappeared almost as soon as they walked off the stage. There really was nothing there, except for me in the front row raising my hand at the moment's notice. I was like, hey! Actually, it got to the point, I have to brag, it got to the point halfway through the second day that they wouldn't let the person off the stage until I got to ask a question. The MC actually said, wait a minute, session's not over until Lauren asks a question.
Hey, all right. So by the way, just quickly, a little sales and marketing advice for you, Lauren. Rather than saying 3 people at this show came up to you and said they watched us, it's 2% of the industry watches us, is what you can assess from that data test.
I'm taking that.
2% of the digital marketing.
What is clearly a representative sample.
Of course.
Statistically relevant sample as well.
I think that should be the new headline.
Yes.
Is 2% of the industry tunes in to our weekly
Absolutely.
lab.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with you completely with it. Something else is just a personal gripe, and I think this is indicative of all conferences. So this is the technology conference. Most of the booths there were about technology based. And by the way, data, if we haven't said it before, is freaking gold. That's the currency of the realm, because every software platform was talking about data integration, API integration, data capture, data usage, what they were doing with it, which is why I got to share some of these vendors with you. A couple of them I didn't even know existed, which that's why I want to share them, see if you guys already knew about them. But don't put people in a booth that don't know the product.
Oh my God. Seriously.
I mean, you got one dude that knows their stuff, and they send. I mean, I know you wanted the cute girl or the handsome guy or whatever, or they got a nice open personality and they can get along, and that's fine if you're pushing a resort or you're just trying to introduce what it is you do. But when you get hard questions, or you got questions that are more than just look at the display or take this brochure, don't put those people in the booth. You end up just wasting your money, because the guy that does know, you got to stand in line because everybody else has the same problem. I don't have the time. I'll come back later kind of thing.
Well, and that's a problem of training too. If your team can't speak to depth of the product, then you're not doing yourself a service. You're paying these people a salary and they don't even quite understand what they do.
Yeah.
Well, and actually, this is a funny thing you bring up, because I'm doing a project for a software company outside the industry right now. And in the B2B space specifically, depending on whose data you go by, customers, when they get to the point of ready to talk to you, they are already 2/3 to 90% of the way down the process, right? They've done their research, they've done their homework, they've talked to people, they've checked out on social, they've checked out your website, etc. They've got a good feel for what it is. So in many cases, they know more about your products and services than your own employees do. And that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a huge problem. And so, you gotta get your folks in place there and gotta use the data to actually drive it. I see you just put up. There's a pretty good post, I think, over on flip.to's blog, written by some clown, I don't know who, but.
Which, by the way, Tim, speaking to that before you talk about how great you are and how great of a platform our blog is, did you understand what I was saying to you when I tagged you in the photo of the chocolate-covered strawberries?
Yeah, you were saying I should have sent you a gift. I was like,
I'm just saying, I mean, it was a nice surprise. And I'm just going to point out that Jason's blog post on our blog has now been picked up by 2 different news sites.
Wait. Hold on, I have a guitar here, but now I'm trying to find my really tiny violin.
I'm making a note about when I'm going to try to be on flip.to's blog. Send gift first.
Hey, listen.
Wait, I'm going to send you an official Tim Peter and Associates pen.
All right. What's funny about this was an idea we wanted to do. Is take people who we like, people who we think actually add value to the industry, and invite you to use our communication platform. So basically, we have a marketing engine, invite you to write a blog and we'll promote it. And, basically it shows that we're aligned. And so we were shocked when you said yes. Was even more shocked. So I've known Jason forever, back when he was the youngest GM in South Beach. And so when he was telling me, that he was like trying to build his business, I said, great, you want to write a blog post on our blog? And he was actually like touched. And I'm like, I agree. It surprised me how much he cared about it. And then when we got the gift, I was like, oh my gosh, you're doing us as much of a favor as you're doing yourself. You allowed our writers to not have to cook up something else. And so now we're experimenting with doing guest blog posts for other companies that have blogs. So we just did one for Navis for their blog. And then if you got a chance to see our blooper reel, whenever someone's in town, we're actually allowing them to use our video production.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep. I thought that was a very nice touch.
Yeah. So that was, by the way, that was 75 minutes of usable video is what came out of the Navis visit to the office and then our test leading up to it. So those bloopers were across 75 minutes of usable video.
I gotta go check out Navis because they owe me a check. I talked about them probably as much as I talked about Derbysoft at this conference. Ironically, and it is kind of funny, you think that at the level that this conference or people at a certain level within the organizations would be at, that the world would be small enough for them to know about functionalities of Navis, functionalities of flip.to. These are fundamental. This isn't abstract bleeding edge stuff. This is functional profit making platforms that have been not just popped into the market recently. You guys have been.
Navis is as old as
Navis has been around.
Employees and.
Right.
Yeah.
And flip.to's going into September will be our 6th year. So,
and for them not to even know that they exist to me is just kind of like, well, what do? You just wait for people to show up on your doorstep, and then whoever has the nicest presentation wins.
Oh no, because
I
guarantee you, we've shown up at all of their doorsteps. They just didn't want to talk to us. No, I mean, but think about how tough that's got to be. I mean, at the speed of innovation in this industry, the finite amount of hotels that are big enough to represent being able to do a lot of these things, you're talking about a lot of little companies vying for attention of a small audience. And so I have to imagine their inboxes must get just blasted and, all this stuff. So, I think it is got to be tough to discover, but I will say there are really good news sites that do a great job of covering what is actually beyond the start. What is actually driving impact, what is actually moving the needle and getting widespread adoption. And every hotelier should be reading all of those. I mean, in my mind, there's 6 I look at on a regular basis. And from those 6, I feel like I keep pretty good tabs. And then talking to you guys, I learned.
Ed, run down the 6, just for what are the 6 that you find most valuable?
I use Hotel Online, and I know that's paid, but it's actually pretty high quality. I use Next Big Thing, Alan Young's blog. T-News is a good one. There's I forget what the name of it is, but it basically pulls all of HSMAI's stuff that comes out across, and I forget what that one is. And then
highlights one, or
I forget.
What you're talking about. I know what you're talking about.
Some of this stuff has become such a part of my day that and I'll have to get back to you on the others. But those are the main ones that stick out.
I'll throw in, just from a tech side of things, Search Engine Land, Search Engine Watch. Those are 2 that I go through just because they keep up pretty good with the travel segment now. They actually have writers specific to travel. Let's see, out of T-News, Skift. I bang on them about trying to be too run to the market too soon, but they do throw a lot into the market. You just
they
have
throw
to
a lot out there. You just have to be sophisticated enough to be able to
filter,
to understand that they're very much like the internet. There is a good amount of stuff on their site that's not right.
Yeah.
And
HubSpot's another one. HubSpot throws out some decent stuff from time to time.
HubSpot,
a lot of stuff.
HubSpot is a great source. Like, we read HubSpot constantly, not just for our own practice, but to also look at, because obviously flip.to is a marketing automation platform, just specific to travelers benefiting hotels. We just get a lot of ideas from them of what would make sense to a traveler, and then we build it in. But like our approach to our content, so all of the stuff you see us doing in content, that came initially from just consuming everything HubSpot puts out in the world. It's a great place to get started. Yeah,
it is. It's kind of like a globalization of content, because they do hit so many different things. Tamborine's been putting some stuff out. Cody,
they put out
some stuff. Which brings me, you know what? Now that you're on with us for a little bit, I know we're at the 11:33 or local mark, but it's good to have you. We talked a little bit about it's fat and happy time right now. Tim's reference to our good old days analogy of where we are now in the market, and when it does take the downturn, as it will, and people start getting lean and more aggressive. I was bringing up the context unabashedly because I'm with Derbysoft helping them, that Metasearch is like the secret that the big boys just don't want to share.
Yeah.
And people just, a lot of people in the space just realize that they're not able to participate in Metasearch. They just aren't in the HPAs because they don't think they're warranted, but they don't realize that they should be and could be.
Yep.
And what are your thoughts about that? Do you think it's going to come to the common man, or do you think it's going to be a secret thing? Or
well, I know a lot of the booking engine providers have worked in native Metasearch support for single property level players and everything like that. But let's talk about, you talked about 2 actual issues here. The first issue is the fat and happy. As a vendor who drives revenue and profit, and same thing with my last company, help drive revenue and profit, these were the times I hated the most. Because we're at the end of a run. And if you look, Robert Rausch put out a great study of all the ups and downs. And it's like, this is the first time in a very long time that we've had 3 substantially up years. And every time we've had 3 substantially up years, guess what the 4th year is? It's the start of the ladder down. So I've witnessed now twice in my history of being a vendor, the lean time for a vendor is actually the fat time. And then it's when business starts to fall out that the revenue generating vendors grow. Easy Yield grew its best during the financial crisis, like to the point where we had to tell our employees, like, don't let any of this stress you out. Like, what's happening in the world, we're the opposite. And so first of all, some foresight into profitability. So even though it's fat and happy time, I don't think hotels are concentrating enough on profitability, the bottom line. They're just looking at top line revenue, which I think is a mistake. And it's just because it's easy and it's a good vanity metric. But I'd rather have a business producing half the revenue and twice the total profit.
Absolutely.
Any day of the week.
Yeah. So that's first and foremost. And then the things that hotels are ignoring, like Metasearch, the things that they're ignoring, as in like real CRM, and really getting their arms around social advertising, because I think social advertising right now represents the best value in digital advertising.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, from the hyper targeting of it, everything about it, I think, just represents a better value than we've seen.
And the methodology of its usage is dramatically improved recently.
Right.
Well, and because of lack of attribution, people assume it doesn't produce reservations, so there's not as much competition for it.
The last
produce
conversation.
sales.
Yeah,
in
but
fact,
if you
it's actually filling the top of the funnel.
If you build it correctly, you can completely attribute it. Like the industry needs to look at and understand what the social networks are. That is the place where you can have a very loud voice, but you can also build a constellation. So you're not just the brightest star. You can actually build a constellation and have that super fine tune that you're talking to the people that will likely buy what you're selling.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And then you track it back correctly. And so social isn't some magic thing. It's a distribution platform. I mean, that's the whole premise of flip.to, is we use social as distribution. That's why you never see us call ourselves a social marketing company, because we don't care that it's social. It could be fax machines. If fax machines become the new next big thing on how people communicate, smoke signals.
Eventually,
Smoke signals, carrier pigeons.
Let them not come back.
But that's the point.
Paper.
We fundamentally don't believe in what most people picture when they say social marketing. We think it's a lot of stuff people cooked up because there's fog of war. Everyone's being told they need to be doing stuff on social. So you see these just really poorly thought out campaigns and efforts thrown out there, and misguided thought process. Like it always blows my mind when a hotel asks us, well, can you adjust your platform to also drive more people to like us socially? And so I said, okay, so you want us to disrupt extracting targeted people out of social and putting them in a controlled environment on your end and converting them to your marketing database. You want us to disrupt that and have them go like you on an area that you're going to have to pay to access them in the future.
Yeah.
And even after saying that, I sometimes get yep, that's what we want to do. Okay. So,
and then they take the little paddle ball with the ball and smack it again after you're done talking to them, right?
Yeah. But I mean, this is the reality. So back to Metasearch, it's the same thing, because it's a little bit mysterious, because there's a fog of war there. A lot of the industry just ignores it. Same thing happened back in the late 90s with this thing called the internet, when a lot of large brands basically said they don't believe travel is going to be a compelling transaction on the internet. Gosh, it's not that long ago.
No, it isn't that long ago. But you also got to figure, too, is that Google is staging themselves slowly and progressively to begin to dominate the entire message on the platform that they own. And the only windows that they're going to open and leave open are places like HPA programs. And to be in those spaces or not. And yes, you can be farther down, but that farther down is so far down that the value of being there isn't there worth the effort to be there anymore, kind of thing.
Well, Google's got a bigger problem, too. I mean, their problem is time interacting with people. This is where Facebook is really starting to gain on them. If you look at the metrics of how long someone spends interacting with Google outside of Gmail, it's yes, we are blocking you, Robert. We decided to put up a tile advertising.
Hold on. Is Mr. Robert Cole able to join us? Is he done with his making
money? Hey, Robert, you should be wearing either a pink shirt or a blue shirt, or just don't.
Go pink. You're gonna be in the lower quadrant with me, Brady Bunch style. You got to put on the pink shirt now. All right, Mr. Robert Cole, come on. Anyway, sorry, Mr.
I'm using the same shirt I had before. Well, I was on the top. I'm not going to change.
One of these things is not like the other. Some of these things are kind of the same. Someone screen capture this because this needs
hold on. We gotta
Where's Waldo?
Make sure you look up before you screen capture.
Look up. Let's see, disgusting.
Look at the camera. There you go.
I'm catching it right now. Wait, let's stop because it doesn't have Mr. Robert in this one yet. I gotta wait for it to propagate in the last 30 seconds. So we gotta share 30 seconds of happiness and joy. Ed, you're on a roll with the conversation. I want to interject something afterwards, though.
Yeah, so talking about the whole Metasearch, and yes, Google is making a lot of movement into that arena because, first of all, it's a way for them to compete with their biggest customers without competing with their biggest customers. So let's not forget Booking.com and Expedia are a P&L line item for Google.
Yeah. Over $1 billion each
per year.
Per year.
Per year.
Per year. To that stat real quick. I'm sorry, Ed. In the conference, Expedia was talking. They said that the U.S. travel market represents $1.4 trillion, of which Expedia has 14% of it.
Wow.
Right. Yeah.
Which and then they talk about that they're getting 10% of their total business from that, and they spend 80% of that on advertising. Yep. But it's just massive numbers.
Yep. So when you look at Google, you look at them trying to move in on the transaction space. What they need to be afraid of is Facebook has the potential of moving in earlier, which is the discovery. They can go in before transaction, before pipeline, and drive decisions. That's what flip.to plays in, is just moving the game earlier, because you're not going to be able to compete with Expedia. When Google gets into it, you're not going to be able to compete with them. So what we look at is, okay, get people before they've even decided to travel. That is the opportunity of social. But you have to understand the whole experience from beginning to end needs to be overhauled if you're going before that. So not a single hotel's website is designed to deal with the persona of someone who has yet decided to travel. And you can tell that by the fact that the only calls to action are book now or sign up for an email newsletter, some form of that. Both are completely inappropriate calls to action for someone who has yet decided to travel. So, this is what Google, they are moving in on the transaction, but what they need to be concerned about is Facebook. I mean, even with the sectioning of the news feeds and all of that, they're starting to organize to get into the discovery. And
Yeah. And not just the discovery of it's the entire trip too, right? So, and it's what are you going to be doing there? It's going to be your air, it's going to be your ground transportation, it's everything. And you can see they're putting in little things on an itinerary. Oliver Heckman, who's the VP over at Focusrite, was talking about packaging and bundling this stuff together. Yeah, it's serious, and they've got their A-team guys working on it, and they're starting to deliver things pretty quickly too. I mean,
I'm going to steal something from Mr. Robert from a couple of classes or a couple of episodes back, where the first quarter, for the first time, occupancy demand was still exceptionally high, but ADRs plateaued and actually started descending. And we talked about it from the Airbnb effect and so forth. To your point, Ed, about it's being rough for vendors servicing the industry on the fat years, the last year of the fat years before we go into the lean years. I think this downward step that you're talking about, that fourth year of descendants, is going to have a completely different acceleration because of when the demand cycle begins to change. There is so many other options now that existed, that didn't pre-exist. That the dissolution of where that business goes and how to find it, you're going to have a very large quantity of businesses that are going to be very flat-footed going, I don't even know where to look. I don't know where to do. I've been on last click attribution. I didn't know social did that. Absolutely. I didn't know that I'm supposed to be in Meta. I don't know I'm supposed to be given this. They're going to be so lost.
Well, and what happens when they get lost? Then they get desperate. They go back to the OTAs. The OTAs leverage it up, and it ties into this whole thing.
Mr. OTA.
It's lower.
I didn't collect nuts for the winter.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
It really is. And now the OTAs, because of the book direct campaigns and the breaking down of rate parity and things like that, I mean, Expedia's been I mean, Melissa Mayer came out, another news item last week. They came out and basically said, here is what our sort order is based on. Mm-hmm. Part A is the value. You know, are you a really good hotel with a really good price and a great location that's high demand? That's good. That's part one. There are two more. Number two is, are you a good partner? And that means, oh, you're giving rates to yourself that are lower than, oh, that you aren't a good partner. And then three is literal. The second one is just, do we like you? The third one is, how much are you paying us?
Right.
And that is, and that goes into the sort algorithm. And so all of a sudden these guys are going, book direct, we're winning, we're good. When things turn down, they're going to be where are we? Why are we not in the first 10 pages of the search results?
Standard merchandising. Go into any grocery store and look at any end cap, and you can know that any product that's on an end cap in a grocery store is paying that grocery store far more than the product around the corner in the middle of the aisle on
at shoe level. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's basic understanding of that. And this is where, if you remember, I think it was the first blab I joined with you guys, I talked about the fact that I think the dissolution of rate parity is a huge disservice to independent hotels. Like, they're going to get screwed.
They're going to get screwed.
Well, it's going to be the chains in some ways may too, because again, it comes down to
their weaker parts of their pack will feel it, but let's face it. I mean, Marriott, Hilton, IHG, the properties they own or their REITs own are the pinnacle real estate in each of its markets. Those don't suffer. Like, those will fill. They're the first ones to get the highest ADR. They're the first ones to fill. So those aren't going to hurt. It's the weaker parts. It's the brands that don't have a real identity, or the hotels that are inside of a brand that's way above the actual value of the property. Those are the ones that are going to hurt. And so that it's going to, cause probably some shrinkage, maybe some more flipping to independent. But the problem is this is the beginning of the end of rate parity. And I honestly, every time I see Expedia and any of these players fight the ending of rate parity, I sit there and go, wow, they're brilliant to fight it.
They are.
They are fighting it.
Congress, yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was the whole thing.
They think it's a bad thing.
Yeah, right.
You have to understand, when Easy Yield started, we built rate parity into our platform. We allowed you to create consumer-facing rates. And back then, Expedia was a different company, but every chance their executives got, they would basically make Easy Yield out to be the devil. And it was because we figured out their rounding algorithms. We figured out how to create rate parity, and they hated it. And that's what everyone seems to have forgotten, is rate parity was fought tooth and nail by the OTAs. Yeah. And now they're fighting to keep it. And that's just a ruse.
But it is. It's completely disingenuous. The high water moment for rate parity, I still think, came down to the intercontinental negotiations, and was it 2004? And Expedia went all in. I mean, the people I've talked to, they asked everything: last room availability, no rate parity, all. And Jim Young, who was former Continental Airlines, got in there, was heading distribution, and went, wait a second. And Expedia had done their homework. They looked and they go, Intercontinental manages 200 of the, whatever it was at the time, 4,000 properties. They have no control. Expedia was more important. They were generating 15% of their transient business. And they're like, I think we're more important to them than the Holiday Inn brand, sort of thing. When you really look at it, what's generating what. So they went all in aggressively, and Young got the, whatever it was, 3,000 or 4,000 franchisees to go, no. It was like, just say no. Don't take the drug. Don't start on. And he didn't. And they cut him off for 3 years.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, that solidified rate parity. Went, okay, good. You've now saved the hotel. Now what's happened is IHG was on the other end of that in Europe, in London. What'd they do? They backed up with Expedia and Booking.com. Went, oh, right, we'll get rid of this. And again, thinking they're being very clever, that we can saw off some prices and Again, what are they doing? They're giving discounts to their best and most loyal customers,
which is not
the
a party.
Worst. Right.
But it's also not a party to the rate parity agreement. The rate parity agreement is for an unqualified rate.
Exactly.
Where if you have to be a member of something to get the rate, that is a qualified rate.
Right.
So I don't even understand why abolish rate parity. Why not just say we have qualified rates that are better than your unqualified rates?
Well,
right. Meanwhile, you're teaching guests that if you just keep shopping, there's a better deal out there. So don't book today. Don't book now. Right. Just keep shopping. Just keep shopping.
Oh, and by the way, every time they shop, they're being exposed to other hotels. I mean, this was the sales pitch of Easy.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have hotels asking me, why do I care? Why wouldn't I just give everyone the same net rate and let them fight it out? And so it was literally, okay, at the time it was only 10 sites. Now it's something like 40 something. But it was 10 sites back then. So I said, every time they're on that 10 sites, they're going to see one of my customers, which back then was Easy Yield, and they're going to see the same rate across the board. And you know what that's going to do? That's going to tell them that that's the rate for that hotel.
Right.
Exactly.
So even if that rate is slightly higher than yours on one of the sites, they're not going to feel like they're going to get burnt at the front desk when the person behind them.
They know they can stop shopping.
Right.
Yeah.
They know, hey, maybe I should take out my credit card and book that hotel.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just so you know, this goes way back, and obviously, Ed, you being the youthful millennial person you are.
Wait. I am years outside of millennial. I'm the middle generation.
All right.
1979.
Well, you know what? Maybe this poster was still around. I think in '79 it's still around. There used to be a poster of this eagle flying down, this little mouse flipping off as the eagle's coming down, saying, the definition of defiance.
Yeah.
At the conference, Expedia was up there talking, and they're trying to cotton candy their whole. Robert, what's the name of the
accelerator?
The accelerator program.
Yeah,
it's called the Accelerate Expedia's Revenues program.
So everything rings when it goes on. So I went over, and everybody's all being cotton candy about it. So the first thing I do is raise my hand, saying, "I'm sorry." He was on a panel. I says, "I'm not a fan of your accelerator program. I'm sorry. I mean, you're mandating that I have to spend money to be in the right spot at the right time, or I'm going to be so regulated down to the lower end that I can't." Sorry, I'm making way too much noise. But the Expedia guy kind of tried to burn two holes through me when I brought that up, because it's like, I'm sorry, he's got no clothes on. Is anybody else noticing this?
Yeah, well, but Booking's been doing that for years, right? I mean, probably 4 or 5 years. I mean, Expedia finally got their platform nailed down, right? And now they're layering in the thing to kind of catch up to, catch up to Booking.
They've done it in a fixed way before. I mean, so being in Orlando, Disney, when they finally decided to work with an OTA, it was with Expedia,
right?
And the caveat was, no matter what your search was, like even if you search for a specific hotel on Expedia, the
Disney showed up.
Come up were Disney's packages.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I mean, this is just a more enhanced version of that, and it's now it's bidding style, because Expedia knows there's always that one person inside of one hotel in a market that didn't quite do their job this month, and they're not going to keep up with the market's growth. So you know what? No one looks at profitability anyways. We only look at top line revenue, and so.
Yeah, there'll always be one that'll break rank and jump in for it. But
and that's why rate parity was so important to independent hotels. Is it stopped you from having that issue. My first job in travel was working for an OTA, and I thought it was ridiculous that they wanted me to call hotels and in the same conversation give them garbage for having a lower rate somewhere else, and finish that conversation with asking for a better rate.
Right.
And I just thought that was so dumb. Like.
Yeah, but how many times did they say yes?
Right.
I changed it. I just said, listen, what if we created a new model? Would you give us something if we created, so we were the first OTA to have like stay X nights, get Y nights free. And we were the first OTA to have stay X nights, get a percentage off.
Right.
That was because I asked the hotels, if I change the model and they can't do the model, will you still work with me? Yep, absolutely. Great. And that's where it came from, is just change the model and you're competitive again.
Yeah.
I found out that
the accelerator program is a wolf in wolf's clothing.
Yeah. I found out on Facebook Live that you have an hour and a half limit, so we only have another 3.5 minutes to talk to our Facebook audience. We had a little over, I don't know, 150 people with us for a while.
Quick, say something smart, someone.
Oh, well, no, that's too late.
E equals MC squared.
That's right. Square. That's me. But
I don't even know what that means.
One last point to the rate parity issue. And I've always contended this because I've always been a person that would follow the letter of the law but not its intent when it comes to these things. Is that when you start filtering out specifically audiences as well as you can with your program and with other programs as well on some things, retargeting and so forth. When you've really isolated down a cluster of people and you're giving them an offer based on the conditions you've created to give them that offer, where does rate parity come in at that point? Because it's not qualified.
Right.
In essence, that you're not saying you're a member or I'll give you a bottle of water kind of thing. But then you're also being very specific to that audience. One, how are you ever going to get caught unless, ironically, somebody from one of the OTAs in that group, which if you're smart enough, you wouldn't do anyway. But where does the rate parity come into that point? How can you not make that market of one work?
You can't.
This is one of the things we try to talk to hotels about. One of the key aspects of our product is using guest stories, which are a photo and a quote about their favorite part of their stay, in a gallery that is interactive. And the gallery is designed to make you want to show love to a photo. Well, when you hit show love to a photo, it then can blindly put up, hey, to show love to the photo, you have to register. And you can say, don't email us. But by the way, if you register and don't click don't email us, you'll unlock an offer for a future stay. And we don't actually show the offer until after they've registered.
Nice.
So that is a truly qualified rate. So we're saying to hotels, stop plastering 15% off everywhere on your site because, by the way, just adjust your rates down 15% then. Actually make people do something. And so what we make them do is we make them not only say who they are, but through what they did, we have intent. Right. Which then means the hotel knows how to talk to them.
Right.
And stands a better chance of building a relationship with this person.
Well, the Navis model. All the data comes on the screen when the call comes in. You're talking to the person based on what brought them there and what you know about that person from previous data that you have about them. Yep. It immediately expedites the conversation to the point of conversion.
Yeah, and people appreciate that if it's done right.
Yep.
Yeah. Spooky if it's not, and great if it is.
So I agree.
And if it's done wrong, you freak them out. Yeah.
Right. I'm the letter of the law, but not the intent. I mean, I literally am trying to convince hotels to stop just doing these unfettered discount programs on their own site. Hide it behind a marketing gate that gives you useful information. And oh, by the way, you can then do what you really want to do, which is go a little bit further and, and give the people who are smart enough to consume your content the benefit of, hey, you were smart. You consumed our content and pushed this last button. Here's the red pill now.
You qualified to now get together. Yes. You're doing it. I want to tell everybody that's on Facebook Live that if you'd like to join us on blab.im, please do so. I don't know how much more time we're going to chatter. We've been our half-hour show has gone to an hour show. That's gone to an hour and a half show. We're just going to spend the day talking because it's too much fun. But anybody on Facebook Live that would like to carry over to us, please feel free to go over and join us on blab.im. I think it's /Lauren Gray, or just look for hashtag HSMAI, probably the shortest hashtag we have out of our name. And come join us over there in case you'll be getting kicked off in 30 seconds. Gentlemen, sorry about that. I just want to make sure that they heard that.
Actually, unfortunately, for me, it's time to go make the chimichangas. So,
are you a day late for Cinco de Mayo? Are you?
Always. I have a call coming up at 12 Central, 1 Eastern. So I need to take off.
Oh, well, unless you guys want to, we'll just wrap it up for now, if that be the case. And again, Robert. Thanks for making a repeat appearance of this. Your first half hour, last half hour.
Exactly.
I would like to point out we are now all currently in parity on the amount of hands.
I have to say, I wanted to do that. I wanted to just make sure that the world was an even place.
Are you smoothing it out?
You're balanced out. Although I should give myself. Oh, okay, yeah, because I'm working. There should be a little. One's not right.
Lauren's now doubled us. Look at him.
That's right.
Well, no, but if you back out the ones Lauren gave himself, now we're in parity.
So who's going to send the email next week about what color we should wear?
I think next week should be a challenge that none of us dress alike.
Okay. I must have something in the closet that doesn't match you guys. That's for sure.
Your problem's going to be is we'll probably end up dressing like you.
Yeah. I'm gonna have like 3 or 4 shirts off to the side. So if I come on with something else, I'm just gonna duck off to the side and change clothes real quick.
I was thinking everyone could just wear their favorite Prince outfit.
There you go.
Yeah, that well.
Tim with that sequin cape that Tim has is really stunning.
I'm 6'2", so no Prince outfit fits me.
Wait, is it what was it? Skins versus blouses?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You got a Dave Chappelle reference.
I do have a pirate costume that I could repurpose to.
There's gotta be something. We can do something for it.
Exactly.
Gentlemen, I will be reaching out to you individually because we do have 2 follow-up conversations on the sidebar. That is our taking vendors and going on to a next project that we want to do the second blab on, which is that. And then the other was I wanted to share what content and vendors from this recent conference more than want to share that with you all because I thought it would be interesting topics.
Cool.
I'll go over and wrap up the recording that we have here with thank you, everyone, for joining us for this week in Hospitality Digital Marketing, where we spent 3 times as much time as we normally do, but all good conversation on the same. Thank you, Mr. Tim Peters. If
on 2% of the industry. Let's not.
Right. 2% of the industry watches us. Okay. Mr. Tim Peters, if people want to find you, where can they find you?
TimPeter.com, Facebook.com/Tim Peter Associates.
Excellent. Mr. Ed?
You can find me at flip.to or LinkedIn, which is my favorite social network.
Wow.
And Mr. Robert Cole.
He just loves to send his friends invitations.
Let's get there.
You can find me at rockcheetah.com or on most social channels at Robert K. Cole and on LinkedIn as well. So.
And soon to be in Dallas.
Yes.
Yeah, moving the move.
And Lauren, where can we find you?
You can find me at Hospitality Digital Marketing, the longest URL in the world. .com.
Proof that what Lauren advises his clients to do, he does not do himself.
I do not take my own advice.
You want a nice, short, concise...
Cobbler's children always need shoes.
That's right. And the painter's house is the last to be painted. But you do know what the website's for. At least I got that.
That's true. Absolutely true.
Right.
Gentlemen, again, as always, thank you for joining us this week. And we'll be next Friday. We're going to do next Friday, same time, same bat channel at 10:30 Central in the morning. Thank you, everyone, for participating.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Later.